Today we are going to be learning about how to start the first step of creating an African mask. So we have an example here that's completely done. It's fully glazed, really nice. I have another one here that is not glazed, but could be glazed. And so you can kind of see that we have the eyes are carved out. We've got some shapes for the face, the nose, the mouth, eyebrows, some extra added details, and a nice texture on here. And we're going to go over those steps for that today. Okay, so what's going to happen is you're going to first start off with a couple of materials. The first one is your canvas drop cloth. This is going to help protect your table, but also it makes it easier to roll out your clay without it sticking too much to the table. It makes cleanup just a little bit quicker. Then you're going to be using two wooden slats. They are nice and flat, and they help us not roll our clay out too thin or too thick. So I'm going to set these down here. You're going to be using a rolling pin as well. The rolling pin itself needs to be on these slats so that it actually does, the slats can actually do what their intended purpose is, which is to make sure we're not rolling too thin. Okay, and of course, last but not least, we're going to be using some clay. You are going to get about a pound of clay to work on and to work with for this project. Okay, my clay has been used a couple of times, so it's not as fresh, but when you get brand new, fresh out of the pack clay, it's very, very soft, and I like to call this baby clay. It's nice and soft, just like a newborn baby. Okay, and that is when it's at its easiest to work with. The more that you work with your clay, if you overwork your clay, it starts to dry out as the days go by, but also as you roll it out, ball it back up, roll it out, ball it back up. And so it doesn't stay as nice, soft, and sweet and easy to work with like the baby clay. It starts to get a bit of an attitude, and I kind of call that teenage clay. Okay, so teenage clay, we don't want to invite that, right? We're trying to kind of avoid that, which means that we're doing our best to get this right in as little tries as possible. Okay, just to make it easier on ourselves. Okay, so mine is kind of rounded up. Yours might be more of in a square shape. And so what I'm going to do, if you do have a ball of clay to start off with, is I'm just going to press this down a little bit, just to flatten it a little. So I'm using my hand. I'm just pressing this down a little bit. Okay, now that it is kind of flat, it's still on the thicker side, but it is kind of flat, so I'm going to take my slats, I'm going to set them here, and I'm going to take my rolling pin and place this in the middle. Now this rolling pin does not have handles on it, which I prefer personally, and I recommend it too. If yours does have handles on it, I wouldn't recommend using the handles. I would just put your hands directly on the rolling pin. Now, when you're rolling your clay out, it does not require a lot of pressure pushing downward. It's more of the rolling motion that helps you roll out your clay. So I'm just going to start rolling, mainly in the middle part. And then I'm going to, if I don't do it just in the middle part, if I go all the way off of here, I a lot of times will create a cool little slide, and it looks cool, and it would be fun if it was a real slide, but for clay, it's very annoying to work with because you might create some air pockets when you have to reform it back into a more sturdy shape. And air pockets, remember, are super, super bad because they could potentially ruin your project. Okay, so I've rolled this a little bit. I'm going to turn it. I'm going to roll this a few more times. I'm going to turn, roll back and forth a couple times, turn, back and forth a couple times. And now I'm going to go actually flip this over, and you can kind of see that this top part looks smaller than this very bottom section here, and it's because I rolled this side first. So in order to kind of keep them even, I'm going to continue rolling this out back and forth, and the whole time I'm staying in between the slats. Okay, if I only roll in one direction without turning it, I'm going to end up with a very skinny shape, and that might not be the easiest to cut out your face shape for. Okay. So I wouldn't roll only in one direction. If you want to roll primarily in one direction, that's okay. But you do need to flatten it the other direction as well. So it means that you're not turning your rolling pin, but you are turning your clay. Okay, so I'm just kind of rolling back and forth. Okay, I'm flattening this out. I'm getting a little bit closer. I'm gonna kind of flip this over. And in mine, right here, you can see I have some cracks that are starting to form. When you have brand new fresh baby clay, it is so soft, you can oftentimes just use your finger and smooth those out. We want to get rid of those as soon as possible because crack is whack in clay and in life. So we want to make sure that we are avoiding those cracks because it is easier to fix while it's a tiny, small problem than it is to fix whenever it's a really big problem. When it becomes a really big problem, a lot of times you just have to start over from scratch. Okay, so I am going to finish rolling this out and I will be right back. Okay, so I have rolled this out and I'm at the point where whenever I roll across my clay here, I'm not really making any difference because it is the same level as these slats. Now, one important thing, we talked about having air pockets and how it's bad. And sometimes if you roll it out the first time and it doesn't go well and you ball your clay back up, sometimes we can add an air pocket in there. And we want to, of course, avoid those as much as possible, but sometimes you still end up with one. When that happens, what I like to do is I like to take either a needle tool, which is very sharp and looks like this, or even a paper clip, which kind of does the same thing, a little bit less sharp. But I like to take that, and I actually have a little air pocket. Where did it go? Usually you can see them kind of bubble up whenever you're rolling your clay. Oh, there it is. And so what I do is I just take this and I just pop that bubble, and I put a couple of little holes in there. I'll press this down, and I will kind of roll back over it just like that. Okay, so I have mine rolled out. I have my clay rolled out. And when we roll out clay so that it's flat, like a pancake, we call this a slab. Okay, so for the rest of the video, we'll be talking about a slab of clay. Now, I've rolled this out so that it's even with my slats. I'm going to move these slats with a T. So look at my slab with a B. And I'm going to take this, and I'm actually going to roll 1 or 2 times without those slats just to make it a little bit thinner. And I'm going to turn it kind of sideways this way. Okay. I'm just rolling a couple times. I'm starting with the middle first. Don't roll from off the clay and then up, because you're going to end up with really, really skinny, pointy edges, and we don't want that. We're going to roll from the middle of the clay. And again, I'm not putting a ton of pressure. I'm just kind of rolling it back and forth like this. I'm not using a crazy amount of pressure. I'm just rolling it back and forth a couple times. Okay, so you don't want to roll it back and forth like 30 times. You want to keep it a decent thickness. We're just making it a little thinner than these slats, just a little bit. Okay, that helps your clay go a little bit further. And notice I'm not even actually going off the sides of my clay. I'm stopping before I get to that point. But this looks like it's ready to go. Okay, so I'm ready to go ahead and start on the face shape. I'm going to turn my clay back this way. At this point, if you notice that you have some large cracks, you of course want to avoid those areas if possible. I do have another little bubble pop forming over here. And so I'm going to go ahead and pop that bubble, lay it down flat. Okay, and now I'm going to use, and you'll use either one of these paper clips, excellent to use, or a needle tool, which is very sharp. They both do a pretty good job. And you can lightly trace, or not lightly trace, but lightly draw your face shape on there first. So for example, say that I want to do a shape that kind of goes across like, whoops. No, the clay just wants to do that thing. Okay, it goes across like this, and then maybe it comes down this way, like so, and then maybe I want to kind of have a little bit of a point here. So basically an uneven pentagon. Okay, and then I would take this same tool, so it's either this or my needle tool. I'll show you what the needle tool looks like. I'm just going to carve in this line here, like this. I'm cutting all the way through. I can feel the edge of whatever tool I'm using to cut this out, touching the canvas below. And I have that. So I'm going to lift up this clay here. And I have my nice little shape. Okay, now with my extra clay, I'm going to take this and I'm going to roll it into a ball because that's the best way to store your clay while you are not working with it. Okay, it's going to help keep it, keep the most moisture in there because clay is kind of a pain to rehydrate. So we want to protect it as much as possible so that we don't have to do all of the hard stuff. Okay, now looking at my face shape here, I have a couple of rougher edges. And again, when you have baby clay, you can go through and smooth it so easily with your finger. My clay is not quite as fresh, but it's still smoothing out pretty nicely. Okay, so I have this here. And now I'm going to move on to forming a nice pillow for my face shape to rest on. Okay, so I'm going to take this, set it to the side, and I'm going to grab a piece of newspaper. Okay, with my newspaper, most newspapers open up like this. I know it's kind of hard to see everything on camera, but there's a line that goes down the middle. You do not need this entire piece of newspaper. You only need half of it. Okay, so I'm just going to tear this down the middle here. So that my half looks like this. I'm going to pull this up here. Okay, so you can see the size of my newspaper. It's just one. It's not double this. Okay, I'm going to take this and I'm going to crumple it up into a wad like this. And then I'm going to form it into a nice little pillow for my mask. The way that I like to do this is I like to kind of take my crumpled paper and start to crumple it towards the middle like this, so that I have this here. You can see that it's kind of has some fluffiness to it. But then on this side, it's not as crumply, which means it's not going to give me a ton of texture that I don't necessarily want, right? So I've got a nice little pillow here. If you're folding this up like origami, it's going to be really flat and it's not going to give it a nice pillow. So I'm making a nice little pillow here for my clay. I'm going to take my mask shape that I cut out for my face here, and I'm going to set this right on top. Okay, now because it is a nice soft pillow, you can kind of see it's curving over like this. To help this curve a little bit more to get a nice round shape like this one has, right here, you can kind of see it's not flat, it's got a nice round shape to it. I'm going to take my mask and I'm just going to kind of slightly round it like this. Just like that. Okay, now we usually will do these steps in the first day. Okay, so I'm going to show you the cleanup process. All of our things will go back to where they belong, but our mask is going to go inside of a Walmart sack. I like to take my Walmart sack and flatten it out like this, okay, so that it's laying on its side instead of upwards like this. I'm laying it on its side. I'm carefully taking my mask and I'm going to place this inside. I'm going to just lift this. I'm going to place it inside of the bag so it's nice and flat. It looks like that right there on the inside. Okay, and then I'm going to, in this little corner over here, I'm going to place my extra clay, okay, for safekeeping. So I've got my mask in here, my extra clay. I'm going to, it's kind of in a rough shape right now. I want to, if I have time, I'm going to smooth out these wrinkles because it's going to be so much easier for me tomorrow. Okay, so I'm going to softly kind of smooth out these wrinkles. Whenever I get it nice and smooth, I'm going to take this. It's going to go in this corner right over here. Then you're going to add a couple sprays of water literally just one or two one or two sprays of water. And then I recommend taking your plastic and kind of smoothing it over. Don't press too hard, just lightly smooth here and here. And that will help kind of create a seal for it to stay at the right moisture level day to day. Our very last step is taking this container right here and placing our mask in very carefully. So I'm holding it very nice, soft, careful, and I'm placing it in the way that makes the most sense. So for me, it's gonna go this way. I'm gonna kind of tuck this under. I'm gonna take these loose edges here and also tuck those under, right? Like you're tucking in your little baby on its little pillow, right? And then I can go put it back in the cubby, and I'm finished with the first goal for our clay mask. In the next video, we'll talk about what the next steps look like, but this is our first day. Good job, guys.